Daniel Jones isn't bad. We'll break down his performance and the rest of these stars from Thursday Night Football on this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. You can follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. We are breaking down the Thursday night football game between the Cowboys and the Giants. And wait, I just have to confirm another flag was thrown, believe it or not. That was basically the story of Thursday Night Football game. But we're not going to talk about the officiating and penalties. Instead, we're going to talk about Daniel Jones, who isn't bad.
I think he looked so good, which is just kind of crazy because I thought he was going to come out against this Dallas defense and just get kind of obliterated. And what I actually saw from Daniel Jones was like accurate throws, like throwing on time, good anticipation, good decision making. He looked like an NFL quarterback.
He did. I thought he played a very good game. Now, there were a lot of drops. He hit Darius Slayton down the sideline that was dropped. At the end of the game, when they were down by 5 and they had a chance to take the lead late, he rolled out of the pocket, hit Malik Neighbors on an absolute dime on the sideline.
Danny Dimes.
Dropped. Yeah, he played well. Now, I have some concerns, Kate, about his overall fantasy value and dynasty value because I'm of the belief that I think the Giants are going to draft somebody next year, and we still aren't seeing the touchdown production yet that we would like to see. But what I care about, and I want to hear your thoughts, is I think Daniel Jones has gotten to the point now where he is good enough to support the players on that offense that we care about, like Malik Neighbors, like Wan'Dale Robinson. Devin Singletary will have a better week than he had this week. He's gotten to that point, and that's fine. Like, as long as you can be a capable NFL starter, I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I actually think you can make a reasonable case for Daniel Jones to be, dare I say, like a very, very cheap buy in dynasty leagues. If you are in a super flex format or a 2 QB league, Daniel Jones, we know he's got some rushing chops. He's got, some of that side to him. It's not the crux of his game, but
he just hasn't used it a lot lately. And I think it's because of the ACL injury that he had last year. He's still less than a year removed from that injury.
Exactly. And I think there's still room for him to, still ramp that up in the second half of the season. But each of the last 2 weeks, he was a top 12 quarterback, Marcus. And dare I say, heading into the Sunday slate, Daniel Jones is the QB2 on the week. Get it?
I get it.
There's only two quarterbacks that played. But anyway, I think he's got some of the rushing upside. He's got a wide receiver 1. I think he looks capable. And as long as Malik Neighbors is in this lineup, I think we're good.
Well, and let's talk about Malik Neighbors in this game. 15 targets, 12 catches for 115 yards. Again, could have been an even bigger day if it wasn't for a couple drops. He looked absolutely fantastic. And there was a couple times where I think if Daniel Jones had a little bit better ball placement, not terrible, but better, maybe some of those long plays go for 50 yards rather than 39 yards. But
and also,
overall,
what if they weren't targeting Wan'Dale Robinson obsessively on third downs? Maybe they would have converted some of those, and maybe they would have elongated some of those drives. Like that there was like a bomb down to Wan'Dale Robinson, who is, I don't know,
5'8".
Yeah, 5'8". The throw was about 2 inches off. So like, I'm going to say if he's a little bit longer, if he had a little bit more length to his wingspan, we might have been looking at another big play. Like, it just feels like there were still a lot of plays left on the field that weren't necessarily Daniel Jones's fault. So I just want to talk about Daniel Jones because I know you think they're going to draft a quarterback. I think they might be more competitive than we're expecting. He's still got some time left on this deal. So, like, if they find that, he's capable and like, I don't think there's a huge reason to jump off the Daniel Jones train. And he literally can't get any cheaper in Dynasty right now. In the latest batch of Dynasty ADP, Marcus, he's not drafted. Like, he went undrafted.
That part's nice, right? You're getting a starting NFL quarterback that's throwing to one of the best receivers already in the league, and he's not being drafted. Now, the good thing is he's not turning the ball over a bunch like he did the last couple of years. Only one interception over the last 3 games, and that interception this week came on essentially a Hail Mary. It was like at the very end of the game. So he's doing a better job of protecting the football. The yardage has been better. The completion percentage is up. So things are trending in the right direction. But I think for him to be fantasy viable, he's going to need to start scoring touchdowns. And that's my biggest concern with this offense is they were able to move the ball up and down the field. But once they got into the red zone, they stalled. If things start to change there, that's when I get interested. But again, I think he's a good quarterback that's going to help us for Dynasty. He's just probably not somebody that I would be targeting in my leagues.
I think that's fair. I respectfully disagree just because, again, I like value. I like the value of where he's at right now. I don't know. I think
You don't believe in Tommy Cutlets coming in and stealing his job?
I do not.
Yeah, neither do
Tommy
I.
Cutlets, I think, remains on the bench barring injury. I just think like Daniel Jones probably is one of the more deceiving box scores on the year. I think yeah,
Well, there was a point in this game, Kate, where I believe he was 26 of 30 with 2 drops in there. Like he was on the money. Now, again, a lot of those throws were underneath, but he was averaging like almost 8 yards an attempt at that point. So he was being efficient. You would just like to see, in order for his game to take off, they've got to start
scoring.
hitting some. Yeah, the scoring, and they got to start connecting on some of these passes down the field. If that happens, and I do think that could come. Remember, this is a really young team. Daniel Jones didn't do hardly anything this offseason coming off the ACL and the neck injury. You had Malik Neighbors, a rookie receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson's a pretty young receiver. Maybe as we get into October and November, this offense will start to play better. At least what we saw last night was a viable NFL offense. And that's better than what we can say about the Giants over the last several years.
I think that is on the money.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys side of things because this is a Cowboy show. I want to talk about Rico Dowdle kind of taking over as RB1 for the Cowboys. And does it even matter? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on all IRA accounts. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. We absolutely love PrizePicks. It is so much fun. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike on other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports, including states like California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That is promo code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We are breaking down the Thursday night football contest between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. We talked about Daniel Jones. We talked about Malik Neighbors. I did want to mention just really quickly on Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, in his last 9 games, and this is playing with several different quarterbacks, including our guy Tommy Cutlets, Daniel Jones. Last 9 games, 50 catches, 528 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I don't know if he's an every week starter, but I think he is somebody that you consider as a flex play every week going forward.
I think that's totally fair. I think it's especially the case in like a full PPR scoring format, especially just given the target volume. Like we saw, this was and do I think that in certain situations, maybe they need to dial back that target volume? 100%. But
never boost it up. I mean, Malik Neighbors, Malik Neighbors got his targets. He had 15 targets yesterday. It's not like he was lacking for targets.
No, maybe get some shots to my guy Theo Johnson. I would prefer to see some of those third down plays go to my guy, which I think it's coming. I don't know if you guys saw that tackle that he had, like chasing down one of the
Malik
Cowboys.
Hooker. Yeah,
like it was a little something. He had some juice, man.
Yeah, he's quite the athlete. But yeah, just wanted to mention that about Wan'Dale. I'm also a big fan, so I know I'm biased there. Let's talk about the Cowboys side of things. I want to start with Rico Dowdle. 11 carries in this game. No other player in the Cowboys got more than 5 carries, and that was Ezekiel Elliott. And Kate, we should mention with Zeke, did not play a snap in the first quarter. Almost all of Zeke's carries came at the very, very end of the game, the final drive, where the Cowboys were just kind of trying to milk out the clock. Hunter Lipke actually was getting touches ahead of Ezekiel Elliott. CeeDee Lamb got 3 carries, including one of the first carries of the game. So 11 carries for 46 yards for Rico. Did catch 1 pass for 15 yards and a touchdown. It seems like to me he's the clear-cut RB1 in Dallas, but doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I was pretty surprised by the entire play out here for Ezekiel Elliott, especially. Like, I was kind of thinking, well, if they don't need him, then maybe they're just not going to play him. And then he gets touches late, which just didn't seem to make sense for me. I do think that we're starting to see the changing tide here. My only question is, Marcus, like, how much do you think that matters? Because this game is I think, throughout the season, probably going to be orchestrated through the air. It's going to be the Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson show. Like, so
let me ask you this.
Rico Dowdle, the RB1, how often can you reasonably slot him into your lineup?
So in 2021, the Cowboys were number 1 in points scored. In 2022, they were number 1 in points scored when Dak was on the field. That's the season that he missed about 5 games with the finger injury. 2023, number 1 in points scored. If you believe that the Cowboys will eventually turn things around and become that version of this offense again, where they're top 3 in points per game scored, then I think you're buying into Rico Dowdle, right? But if you believe it's going to be a lot of the same, where it's a lot of 20, 24 type point games, then I think he's probably somebody that you're just going to ignore.
I think that's fair. And also, like, this defense hasn't looked as strong, which definitely kind of hurts the game script for the run as well. So, like, I don't necessarily know that I feel confident in what this team is at this point, like the just overarching identity of the team. Because, like I said, last year it felt like this, defensive powerhouse, and you come in, they're efficient on offense, but the struggles on defense, some of those are just kind of throwing me for a loop in my projections of this team. But I do think if things start to balance out and we start to see more of what we had last year, Rico Dowdle might be a flex play. I don't envision a world where I'm like trying to trade for Rico Dowdle in my dynasty.
I'm not there either, because I do think One of the things that's going to hurt Rico is it's pretty clear that Dallas wants to use Ezekiel Elliott near the goal line. Now, Rico scored a touchdown in this game, but it was 15 yards out on a screen pass, right? Like, I think if they get inside the 2 or 3 yard line, those are the touches that are going to go to Zeke just because the Cowboys trust him so much there. So I'm with you. Like, I think there's a good chance that we could get to the end of the season and Rico has 220 touches, but you never feel good about starting him any single week. And with the schedule that they have coming up, including at Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco, Houston, Philly, like there's a lot of games where it might look like this: 11 for 46, and he doesn't score a touchdown, and it's kind of a goose egg in your lineup.
Yeah, I think that's probably where you're at with him. And honestly, if there's like a contender in my league or just somebody willing to buy after it looks like he's taken over the backfield, I'll move on. I also want to shout out our guy, Jake Ferguson,
Yes.
because I think he was another huge takeaway in this game, just because, again, like we kind of said, there's no clear cut, like dominating wide receiver 2 of this team. Obviously, they've got Brandon Cooks, they've got Jalen Tolbert, but like the number 1 or the number 2 target on this team behind CeeDee Lamb it's Jake Ferguson. And right now, tight end 10 in Dynasty startup ADP for the month of September. I'm not going to be surprised if he's like tight end 7 in this next batch of Dynasty ADP. Because like when I'm looking at the landscape right now, he seems like one of the safest tight ends, but also a guy who also has a lot of upside, just given his presence on an offense with a good quarterback, like who uses the tight end position. He's kind of rapidly climbing up my rankings.
Yeah, and we have to remember he suffered a knee injury against the Browns in week 1 that I think a lot of people were really concerned was going to be a long-term injury. It was an MCL injury. He missed 1 game, came back against Baltimore last week, 6 for 95. In this one, not a huge statistical game, 7 targets, caught all seven of them for 49 yards. So again, in a full point PPR league, 12 points from your tight end is perfectly fine. Has yet to catch a touchdown this year. Those are coming. Those are going to be coming. One thing that Dak loves is to throw to the tight end in the red zone near the end zone. So those are going to come. And this is what we were talking about the last couple of days with somebody like Dalton Kincaid, where if Dalton Kincaid's not scoring touchdowns, how valuable is he in your fantasy leagues? Because he's not getting a ton of volume. He's not getting a bunch of yards. Ferguson's kind of on the opposite end of that. Even if he's not scoring touchdowns for you, Kate, he is so involved in the offense that it's hard to envision him not getting to, again, full point PPR, 9 or 10 points every single week. And then if he scores a touchdown, you're looking at potentially a boom week of 20 or more points.
Yeah, I think, again, just one of the safest tight ends in all of football. Like through the first, 3 now into 4 weeks, he looks like one of the only tight end options that we can look at with kind of this secure role in his respective offense.
We should mention CeeDee Lamb, who had another really big game, 7 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. Also had 3 carries for 8 yards. I mean, he's just locked and loaded as wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 for you. I mean, it's hard for me to envision somebody else overtaking him in your dynasty leagues, just because not only is he locked up to a long-term deal, the Cowboys locked up Dak Prescott to a long-term deal. So there's a lot of stability there with the coach with the quarterback and the wide receiver. Maybe he doesn't have some of the spike weeks that Justin Jefferson has, but week to week, you got to feel very confident about how the Cowboys are using him.
Yeah, wide receiver 1.
I mean, pretty easily. Yeah. Through 4 games this year, 316 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 33 yards on the ground as well. Wide receiver 1. All right, Kate, let's do some commotion players that we are promoting from our bench into our starting lineups in week 4, excuse me. And with so many injuries, you're going to have to play some of these guys this week. We'll tell you our favorites next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You don't need to win or lose or anything like that. Once you place a bet, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. You can use those bets to place money line wagers, point total wagers, the spread, or go look at the futures market. I love betting on futures. Like, you can go bet on who you think is going to win every division in the NFL, or go look at the MVP race. I kind of like my guy Sam Darnold as a sleeper to maybe take home that award. Again, go make your first $5 bet and you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Everydayers, we'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NFL Now show with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks you off the morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Kate, it's time for our favorite segment of the week. It's Promotion Commotion, players that we are promoting from our bench or maybe even the waiver wire into your starting lineup. Who do you got for week 4?
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out here. Do you want to start with like not so gross and work
not
our
so
way
gross. Let's get gross as we go.
Okay, I love that. My first guy has to be Michael Wilson, wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. Wide receiver 2 for this team, Trey McBride, currently dealing with a concussion. Not really sure if he's going to be a go here in week 4. You have Kyler Murray, who's playing out of his mind, and they get a matchup with the Washington Commanders. What secondary? I don't know. Do they have a secondary?
No.
Have they rolled that out yet?
No.
I don't think so.
That's good, but you, I like the team, but I'm going with a different player. I'm going with my guy Greg Dortch.
Okay.
Kate, for the Cardinals. And this is we always like to have these little fun bets. I love Greg Dortch's usage. He's playing in the slot. And I think without Trey McBride, Kyler's going to want to target somebody over the middle of the field. And I think that's going to be Dortch. I think this is a game where Dortch could have 5 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. I'm playing Greg Dortch with confidence this week.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to say no to either of these options.
Yeah.
I want both of these guys. I think there could be I would project a 300 plus passing yard game for Kyler Murray here. I think that's well within the realm of possibility. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. can eat. I think this is just a game where you start all your Cardinals.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, who's your next one?
All right, this is a really gross one, but I want to shout out Cordarrelle Patterson.
That was my name.
No!
You stole it. That's who I wanted to play. Oh, this is great. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Cordarrelle Patterson. So Jaylen Warren dealing with a knee injury. He hasn't practiced this week. I don't think there's any shot in the world that he plays. So he hasn't been officially rolled out. I'm going to expect on the Friday injury report he's going to be fully rolled out, which means they're going to get Cordarrelle Patterson some touches. We saw in the end of the game last week, they got him pretty heavily involved. He was also playing wide receiver because Van Jefferson sustained an eye injury. So he did earn some additional snaps there. I think they're going to use him more as a runner this week, but he's a fan favorite of Arthur Smith. We can't deny it.
I like it. I think this is a really good call. I also, if you play in a league that gives you points for special teams yardage and return yardage, I think he's a good one. The Colts can't stop the run. And with DeForest Buckner out this week, we'll see about Kwity Paye. I think he's not going to play either. So that means that the Colts could be without their best defensive tackle and they're 2 of their top 3 edge rushers. Their best tackling player in the secondary, Kenny Moore, unlikely to play as well. I think this is a game where Pittsburgh just runs the crap out of the football, and maybe Najee and Cordarrelle Patterson are both guys that you want to start this week. So I love that. Also, Cordarrelle looks huge, by the way. There was a run last week that he had where he ran over a linebacker. I'm like, oh, that's a nice run by Najee. Oh, that's 84 out there. He looks monstrous.
Yeah, he looks like a tank. It looks like a tank. Not surprisingly competent tank.
Yes, surprisingly competent. All right. I want to go back to this Arizona-Washington game because I kind of like Luke McCaffrey a little bit. When I was worried about McCaffrey going into the year that he just wasn't going to play a lot. There was some rumblings that maybe he wouldn't even be the starting slot receiver, but it seems like he's kind of won that job now. He's seen the percentage of the offensive snaps go up in 3 straight weeks. He got 3 targets against the Bengals. I don't think this Arizona secondary is good. So if you need, a PPR league, just somebody that's going to be on the field quite a bit, I kind of like Luke McCaffrey.
Yeah, I like Luke McCaffrey. It seems like the team really likes him. They're starting to trust him a bit. Also, if you need a tight end play, Zach Ertz, who just continues to be chugging along. And who are we to deny the love that Cliff Kingsbury has for Zach Ertz? Like we just can't deny it.
I'm going to give you one more. How about our guy, Jonathan Mingo? I think this might be a week for the Panthers. So I think the Bengals secondary is horrendous. And I think this is going to be a very good Andy Dalton game, especially with the Bengals playing on a short week in Carolina. Deontay Johnson is dealing with a groin injury. Adam Thielen has already been ruled out with a hamstring injury. He was placed on the injured reserve list. I think the Panthers are going to have no choice but to throw the ball. We'll see if Xavier Leggett's the one to step up, but I'm going to go Jonathan Mingo. If you want like a really deep flex play here, like somebody that's way off the radar, I think this is a breakout game for Jonathan Mingo.
Yeah, none of these start sits are gonna feel good. But again,
Nope.
that's the juice of promotion commotion. That is what we are here to bring you, the most disgusting players that you can throw into your lineups. And I think we got a very good list together here.
Yep. All right. So again, that's pretty gross. It will not be our grossest promotion commotion of the week or of the year. I can guarantee you that. Once we get into some of these bye weeks, it gets pretty lean. But all right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Go check out the channel on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Majuk. I'm at Marcus _Mosier. Enjoy week 4, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.